Welcome to Podcast 83, a regular look at the news, stories, and trends related to Michigan's 83 counties from the Michigan Association of Counties.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Podcast 83, the podcast put on by the Michigan Association of Counties. I am Deena Bosworth, Director of Governmental Affairs here at MAC. And with me today, we have Madeline Fata, our Legislative Associate, and a very special guest, Ed Noyola, who we all know and love. Ed is the Chief Deputy and Legislative Director for the County Road Association. And today we're going to do kind of a deep dive into roads, road funding, the future of road funding, and maybe some issues that we're grappling with, in the legislature right now. So with that, thank you, Ed, for coming. We greatly appreciate it.
Thank you, Deena and Madeline. I appreciate being here, and I hope I can enlighten your members on what's going on with roads and road funding.
I'm looking forward to it. So, Ed, why don't we just kind of jump right in? We know that we've been talking for years about how there's just not enough funding to fix all of our damn roads out there. And we're facing issues with, declining revenue, declining gas tax revenue, whether it's from fuel efficiency or electric vehicles or whatever it is. How about you set the stage for our members and explain to them, from your perspective, what's going on?
All right. We just completed our 2023 road investment plan, which basically identifies 6 categories and where we stand as far as revenue needed to maintain those different categories, which also includes maintenance and facilities, federal aid roads, non-federal aid roads. Right now, every category has gone up from our the 2021 plan that we did. This will be our 3rd biannual plan that we provided, and everything has gone up except for maintenance. And I think maintenance went down just because we've had some pretty light winters, to be honest with you. It's really unique for anything to go down, but that category did go down. At the end of the day, we're short about $2.8 billion a year for county road agencies. And that also includes our county road departments. So that is really a number that boggles the mind, and I'm sure it's going to boggle the minds of our legislators and the governor's office to include that into what MDOT needs and what the cities and villages need. So that sets the stage of the need from our point of view. What we've been looking at is what are some solutions. Now, you and I were around in 2015, and you were around probably in 1997, the 2 last fuel taxes that were brought before the legislature and enacted into law. Both times, both governors, both legislators that attended the signing ceremony all said, great first step, or, this is the first step. Never had a second step until we absolutely positively needed it. And by that time, our roads and highways were declining. The revenue that came in lost its dollar value right away. And we ended up in the same spot we were from the previous gas tax or fuel tax increase. So now we need to do it again. And if we're going to change to any type of different method for collecting taxes to get everybody to pay their fair share, and as you mentioned, electric vehicles aren't paying their fair share, and neither are the high efficiency vehicles. They're getting to be more costly than the electric vehicles. We're losing more money on high efficiency because they get such a great mileage rate per gallon.
So, Ed, that was crazy to me. You really said, oh, sorry, there goes my light. You really said $2.8 billion a year, and that's just for county roads, not for all of our roads?
That is correct. In 2021, we were short about 1.8 billion, and it's only gone up. You got to remember the cost of everything has skyrocketed. When you look at equipment, you look at material, anything that has steel or is a byproduct of oil, through the roof, literally.
Wow. Okay, so declining value of the dollar is going down. The cost of maintaining or improving or fixing our roads is going up because materials are going up. Labor is probably going up.
Yep.
Equipment's going up. And then we're losing money that was really going into the pot because we have all these electric vehicles that are not paying the gas tax, which we use to fund the roads, right?
They're
that what we're
paying
looking
a
at?
portion through their annual registration, but if they drive over 13,000 miles, they're driving for free while the combustible engine people like you and I continue to pay as we go. And there is
Wow.
one category of electric hybrid vehicle that doesn't pay anything. They don't pay a surcharge on their registration fees, and how we miss them, I don't know, but they don't pay anything. So they're not only not paying federal fuel tax, they're not paying any state fuel tax.
So, I mean, we've got members, across the board, some that, are all in on finding different funding solutions to fix the roads, and others say, why can't we just use the money that we have and keep it going that way? What do you have to say to that?
It's already been proven that there isn't enough money. Even the Michigan Infrastructure and Transportation Association has hired someone to do a study, and that need is statewide. There is no way that the amount of money that we have is going to maintain our 90,000 miles, MDOT's 10,000 miles, or the city's 20,000 miles of streets that we all have to maintain and make improvements to, period.
So what are the potential solutions?
Well, we're putting together, we have a work group. It was our electric work group, which you guys were part of. We want to pull everybody together and sit around a room for a day or so and truly, really try to figure out how can we best resolve the solution in the short term and what is going to be the long-term solution. The long-term solution is going to be a little bit more challenging, but I took a great pride in hearing from the Michigan Municipal League and the Michigan Township Association, who were ready to look at a mileage-based user fee transition for the long term. And that's going to impact us in so many different ways that I can't even begin to tell you. I don't think we have enough time to talk about it, but it is a perfect user fee. If you drive 100 or 10,000 miles, you're going to pay for 10,000 miles worth of driving. If you drive 50, you're going to pay for 50,000 miles of road driving. That is the great equalizer here for older vehicles, hybrid vehicles, trucks, pickup trucks, SUVs. So this is the perfect concept. The feds, unfortunately, are way behind the curve. When we went to Washington, D.C. for a Michigan mileage-based user fee conference, the feds were way behind most of the states that were there. There was probably 13 states that were talking about it. They have pilot programs already underway, kind of like ghost projects with volunteers. And basically the ghost project is you keep track of your purchases of gallons of gas, and then you keep track of your miles. And let's see what that really looks like. How much would you pay per mile if you were paying 1.2 cents a mile or 1.5 cents a mile versus your per gallon rate of expenditures? So this has been really going on, especially on the East Coast and on the West Coast. It just seems like central USA is kind of, sitting back and waiting. Well, guess what? We can't wait anymore. We should have had a pilot program last year or 2 years ago, but we are pushing the legislature to force the department to start a pilot program. We don't need to wait for federal fundings or a federal program. Let's just put some money aside, get this sucker going, and let's start looking at how do we transition out of this fuel tax system that we're in.
So I want to talk about the technical implementation of a mileage-based user fee program. Obviously, the whole Big Brother concept is a big fear for some people. What are these other states doing? How are they collecting the data? Who's collecting the data? Can you get into some of those specifics for us?
Yeah. Regardless of the cost for collecting the data, whether it's through a little fob that you can put in underneath your steering wheel and connect it to the system. And really all this fob does is it downloads your mileage. It doesn't say where you've been, how fast you've been going. It just says, here are the miles driven from this date to this date. End of story. Now, also what other states have done through research and now their pilot programs is they want choices. They want to be able to do voluntary reporting. They want to do the fob. They want to do what's that button on your rear view mirror?
OnStar?
OnStar. Yeah, there's different methods for recording and downloading this information. But at the end of the day, If you do the voluntary, that's kind of hard from the standpoint that we won't catch you, or the state won't catch you until you sell your vehicle, where you got to turn in your miles on your actual miles on your vehicle. That's when the auditing sort of starts. If you're doing it through any of the other processes, it might be a little bit easier to catch you or make sure that you're being honest and reporting your actual miles. The other thing that they found out was that the public prefers a third party to collect this data, not a state agency, which should be a no-brainer, but it surprised me that everybody wanted to report to some third party, which may be a little bit more expensive doing it that way versus the state. But I've had other states that have reported that it would cost them, for their state agency to pick up this data or collect this data and maintain it, cost them more than the third party to do that. The other thing they would like to do is they want choices in, how do I pay? Can I pay quarterly? Can I pay monthly? Can I do a upfront? I drive 20,000 miles. I want to pay for 20,000 miles upfront when I get my tab. Those are the sort of options that they have found through all of these studies and research that the public wants.
That's fascinating. So if we did go, I mean, you do the math, you've probably done the math, you've looked at it. If we did go to a mileage-based user fee, what does that do to the gas tax?
It slowly phases out.
Cleanses out.
Yeah. As vehicles or types of vehicles, whether it's, miles per gallon type of vehicle or year of vehicle or whatever the process is to transition out of the fuel tax, you will remove that fuel tax. And that will also trigger what happens to the sales tax. The sales tax goes away too, because if you're not charging fuel tax, there is no sales tax. So that's going to have an impact on that aspect of our unique taxing on fuel.
That's probably one of the most frustrating things for people to understand, is that the sales tax on gas doesn't go toward the roads.
That is absolutely correct. Now, MITA, when they presented to the House Transportation and the Senate Transportation Committees, they said that 50 million goes into transportation. I'm not sure about that. If they're looking or goes into roads, it goes into the Comprehensive Transportation Fund, which is the transit area of transportation, of the transportation budget. It doesn't go into roads and bridges. So they get a small portion of auto-related sales tax. Your oil, your fan belt, your window or washing solution. So those sort of auto-related things, that sales tax goes into the MTF, but it goes to the CTF, the Comprehensive Transportation Fund.
So, I look at it because I do, mostly finance issues. Madeline handles all this transportation stuff. And thank goodness she does, because I'm trying to wrap my head around it. But I know that sales tax goes to schools.
Mm-hmm.
Sales tax goes to local units of government.
Mm-hmm.
Sales tax goes to the state's general fund. So that might be a huge hit at the end of the day, but.
Well, I think when we sit down together as a small coalition to discuss what are the options, I think that's going to be something we can easily address, in my view. Now, that's not to say that you're going to be happy with the end number or the schools are going to be happy with the end number, but it lessens the blow, because there's no way we can get dollar for dollar, especially if we're trying to do an increase before we transition into the mileage base. That was another thing that the surveys found, is that if you are going to require more money for your infrastructure budget, then you need to ask for that now. Don't ask for it through the transition, because the public feels like you're bamboozling them by trying to increase through the transition period. So really, whatever the rate is when we start the transition, it's a dollar for dollar. We end up with the same dollar amount in 10 years or 5 years or whatever, however many years we want to feather this out.
How does that transition work? I guess I just don't get it. We're either paying gas tax or we're paying by the mile. How does that work?
If your vehicle is, between, 1900 and 1950, you're going to pay this much. And if yours 1950 to 1970, you pay this much. You will transition into that mileage rate. But we have to have a starting number, and whoever this third party is has to know where it is your starting point and then keep track of you as you for that year or that period of time.
Okay.
Another big concern with the mileage-based concept is out-of-state visitors. How would we then capture those drivers? Would we be taking a loss from not being able to?
Well, the only way that we could capture them is through the energy source or the energy company who's charging those vehicles. Some of our charging stations you have to pay, and if you swipe your credit card will say you're not a stater, so here's your charge for the rate to juice up your vehicle. That's the only way that we would probably be able to capture them right now until the feds get involved and start doing some national mileage-based user fee. And that's what the East Coast calls it, just so you know. They call it mileage-based user fee. On the West Coast, they call it RUC, R-U-C, road user collection. That's the West Coast, and this is the East Coast. We're kind of in the middle. So I know the department has been using RUC. I know we have been using MBUF. So I like MBUF. It sounds cuter.
I'm really on the M buff too. I don't know if I want rock.
RUC.
Rock. It's like yuck. I don't want that.
I
Anyway,
agree. I agree. Well,
so
that kind of cuts to the short term and the long term funding solutions or options that we have available. And in the past, Deena, we've tried not to tell the legislature what's the best choice or how much they need to invest in the infrastructure. I don't think we can play that anymore. I think we have to be direct and honest with them as to how much we need. They can decide whether they can meet that figure or not, but at least we got to tell them how much we need to increase it in the short term, and then how do we transition out in the time frame that we're going to transition, that transition period. I know MML wants shorter is better. I know other states that have done it, they're going out 8-10 years to transition. So that's pretty lengthy as far as I'm concerned. But it's getting the people used to this concept that we need to really work on. And the only way we can do that is to start a pilot of about 1,000 or 2,000 volunteers to sort of get the public involved in this and then report back as quickly as it's going on every quarter or every 6 months, so that the public knows that this is coming, this is how it's done, and it's fair. That's the unique part about this. This is fair. If you drive 10,000 miles, you're going to pay for 10. If you're going to drive 100, you're going to pay for 100,000 miles. I like it.
yeah, I'm okay with it. I don't, whatever. I don't care. I'll pay for the roads however I need to pay. That's my personal opinion. But I mean, is there a disincentive then to have a totally fuel efficient vehicle?
There is no incentive, but there is a northern Michigan versus down south Michigan or urban areas. They feel like they're going to get tapped in the rural Michigan and northern Michigan because they drive more. Well, if you're paying by the mile, you're probably going to have to pay less. If you have a high efficiency vehicle right now, you're probably going to end up paying a little bit more. It has the reverse effect of what common sense is telling the public.
Yeah, I mean those in the rural areas, they're paying more in gas tax right now because they drive so far, right?
Right.
So
exactly.
then it might be okay.
And they have poor efficient vehicles. They've got pickup trucks. They've got SUVs, and those are really low mileage efficiency. Where you're driving a smaller vehicle or a passenger type vehicle, you're getting great miles. You're getting 25, 27 right now.
Well, and we've seen the big three kind of backing away from EVs almost. And I know there's talks about hydrogen vehicles and any technology of the future. The bottom line is we have to transition away from a reliance on a motor fuel tax, correct?
Yep, that is very, very correct. Madeline, I got to be honest with you. The electric vehicles are struggling in the northern climate states, just like right here. Those sales are probably going to drop a little, but I can tell you the hybrids, the in charging hybrids, the plug-in hybrids, those guys are going to go through the roof. They are going to continue increasing their fleet size in the state of Michigan. I think the EVs are going to continue to increase slowly but surely. as technology gets around this cold weather issue that we have in Michigan and northern states and the US. But I think that's going to continue to increase. I think they're going to back down from their goals for 2030. A lot of them said that they wanted to be to 70, 80 to 100% all electric vehicles. Oh, I don't know about that. If the if the president stays the same, that they might kick that back up a little bit. They might be a little bit more aggressive, but I think they're kind of like a wait and see what happens in the presidential election.
Well, Ed, I've learned a lot. I think it's fascinating. Oh, I have one more question.
Oh,
What if we do nothing? What if we do nothing? We just continue to let the revenue decline, we let the roads decline, patch up as much as we can. What does that look like?
what was that? Before the 2015 fuel tax legislation was enacted, we were converting hard surfaces to gravel. And if memory serves me correctly, I think the highest number of miles that we converted from hard surface to gravel was 300 miles. That's where we're going. And they will not only be county roads, they will be county subdivisions, city subdivisions. Those are the ones, our local roads and streets are the ones that are being hurt the most. Those low traffic volume, subdivision, farm to field type roads, those are the ones that are really in worse condition than our federal aid eligible county roads.
So back to horse and buggy, is that what you're saying?
We're going to be in the Dust Bowl.
Well, okay, on the subject of gravel, enough about road funding. Enough. Let's talk about the brine issue. If everything transitions to gravel, we're already possibly facing some struggles with gravel roads, if you want to talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, Eagle combined mineral brine in with the oil brine, which is a very, very dirty brine, and it has a lot of contaminants in it. Mineral brine is just a natural mineral product. It's liquid salt or liquid calcium. So that product is really a good, clean product that we use for two purposes. In the wintertime, we use that to wet the salt so that it makes it gummy and sticky, so it doesn't bounce off the pavement when we use it. And then we use it for dust control in the summertime. It's a great product for dust control. And if it rains, if it sprinkles a little bit, everybody says, don't put down the brine when it's raining or sprinkling. That's the best time to do it because that water helps push that brine into the stone, into the gravel, and really pushes the dust down. Eagle said that because they, pardon?
You said Eagle combined it with oil brine. I don't know what that means.
The permit, when you use oil brine, you have to apply for an annual permit.
Okay.
And that Eagle can say, send me your product, send me samples of where you're getting your product, and we'll tell you if you're good or no good. And if they say good, okay, we can use it. If they say no good, we have to find another oil brine well to use to get the brine from. Mineral brine is very prevalent. It's all over the state. I know we have some road departments and road commissions that have their own mineral brine wells, and that's where they pull it out, they store it, and when they need it, they use it. Now Eagle is saying because they're combined and there's this potential for contamination that we need to start certifying our drivers, keeping drivers logs of when they use it, where they use it, avoid open water areas, avoid wells, property owner wells. It's like, how are we going to possibly do that? Our guys are going to be spending more time on the side of the road documenting what they're doing than actually providing the dust control that's needed. So we went around and around with Eagle. They finally agreed to back off, especially on the winter. The winter brine is not a problem. Summer dust control brine, that's where the problem is. They feel that we have a potential for contaminating our streams and clean water areas. We're saying no. We are good stewards. We're environmental stewards, just like they are, and we do the best we can to make sure that we're not polluting anything or putting mineral brine in open waterways. So that being said, we have agreed to provide best practices. We're going to use statewide, and everybody's going to follow the same practices. And let's try it for a couple of years. Let's document what we're doing. And if they can prove that we are doing any polluting, then maybe we need to take another look at it. But for right now, we feel strongly that they need to look at other areas of salt users, which includes the big box stores, your Myers, your Kroger's. Those are the ones that are putting down so much salt that's getting into the waterways. But we're government, so we're the low hanging fruit that Eagle can force to do things versus trying to get the private sector to change their ways.
Got it. Got it.
And that's my short version of our discussions with Eagles. We're not just about road and bridges, you know.
I hear you, Ed. I can get on the soapbox on big box stores too, and actually on a soapbox on Eagle. So I hear you. So Madeline, do you have any other questions for Ed? Ed, what do you want the takeaway to be? What do you want our members to really think about?
I want them to understand that if they want good primary roads and good local roads, or us to start working on our local road system network, we need their support. We need them to talk to their legislators about the short-term and the long-term funding solutions, not just sit there and worry about, okay, I'm going to give you, another 7 cents or a dime for fuel tax and think it's done. It's not done. We need to develop a way to provide a consistent funding source so that we can plan our projects, fix our infrastructure, and move on. But the one thing that I didn't mention, and this is because of Eagle, were our culverts. Every time we have to replace a culvert, we have to get a permit from Eagle. Very rarely do they say, okay, you got an 18-inch culvert, put an 18-inch down. They want bigger. But when we go bigger, when you're talking about an 18-foot round culvert or a box culvert, guess what the limit is for it to be a bridge? 20 feet. So if we go beyond 20 feet, now we're going to have to put in a bridge. We do not have money to be replacing culverts with bridges. That's a scary part of a project when our guys are looking at their road work. They say, I got an 18-foot culvert. I want to avoid that road project for as long as I can because I know I'm going to have to build a bridge.
Ugh.
That's the stink in the oil on some of our road projects. Thank you.
I'll say that we work very closely with the County Road Association. We're on 2 separate coalitions to try and find solutions to this road funding problem. And it is always a pleasure, Ed. It's always a pleasure working closely with you guys.
Yeah. Well, I just want your members to know that we do have a good working relationship. We don't always agree on everything, but at the end of the day, we have each other's backs.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much for being with us, Ed. I
You guys
appreciate
take
it.
care.
We'll
Have a
talk
nice day.
soon.
Thank you for listening to today's episode of Podcast 83.